Hello, and welcome to another episode of Solipsist Watched. I'm your host, the Social Solipsist, and this week I watched Nightcrawler from 2014. Some of you this movie made the rounds when it released as a rather small indie film that got a lot of praise. And it's taken me a lot of time to get around to it, despite the fact that I had friends at the time who gave it a very strong recommendation. I'm glad I finally got around to it, and you may remember in no small part that is related to what I watched a few weeks ago, Velvet Buzzsaw, which is the same director and writer. I think in that video I actually said that I didn't think Nightcrawler was also written by the director, but it is. It's just an inconsistency in the formatting on the web pages. So this is directed and written by Dan Gilroy. It is a original screenplay, and I like it much better than Velvet Buzzsaw. Admittedly, it is rather different, but it also has some similarities. So it features a few of the same actors, including Renee Russo, who I can't remember if I knew or said in the video that she is also married to Dan Gilroy, the writer-director. She's in this as a major character. Jake Gyllenhaal is essentially the primary character of the film. There's also some other, notable names in... I don't want to say minor roles, but one of the other sort of major supporting characters is Riz Ahmed, who doesn't have a really storied film career, but has been in quite a few things. I was actually realizing that one of the first things I ever saw him in is a movie from 2010 called Four Lions, which I think is rather unknown and is pretty great. I think it was a little before its time because of the content that it covers, but it's very funny, as I recall, and I remember thinking it was pretty darn good. Anyway, not to digress too much, Nightcrawler is really impressive in a lot of ways. Well, yeah, I won't take that back. It has a lot of the same ups and downs that I saw with Velvet Buzzsaw. I will say that. In terms of the skill and directorship, and some of the technique, the cinematic technique being used, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Like I had said with Velvet Buzzsaw, there are some shots. I would say on the whole, the average is higher. And there are a couple of pretty darn good shots in this film. And there's more dynamic camera work depending on the content being filmed in this film than there is in that one. I don't want to spend the whole time just comparing the two, but drawing the comparison is going to happen. Nightcrawler is a very different sort of thing. It is not really a horror film. It's sort of branded as a thriller, but honestly, what's most interesting to me about it is that even though the framework is sort of that of a drama or a thriller, it is borderline satirical. And I don't want to spoil too much of the feeling for anyone. But I think I didn't quite know what I was gonna get out of it, and I think it's really fascinating from the content and the script and the story overall, and what the film focuses on. That by virtue of its framework, it's not funny, but it is satirical. I don't really want to sort of explain what the difference is, but hopefully you get it. It is not quite a character study, but it is also not really about the the story itself. A lot of what's really interesting and really kind of grips you and keeps you in the film is the things that it unpacks as a sort of secondary thought as you experience the narrative and as you watch these characters behave in the unique ways that they do. There are a number of characters in this film who are pretty darn compelling, not always in a positive way, but who make pretty darn strong characters, or at least give you a very strong impression without spending a long time over developing them in ways that aren't really, relevant to the story at hand. The film is naturally somewhat voyeuristic in its style, and that really has a direct connection to the content of the story itself. I think that's very deliberate, but it is not like it doesn't hit you over the head with it at all. It's just an interesting sort of meta-narrative connection that's being made in some of the cinematic stylings. I'm stumbling over myself trying to figure out where I want to go, because there's a bunch of really good things I like about this. The characters, like I said, are all framed very well in terms of delivering what they need for their place in the story and not delivering what they don't need. That is both by virtue of the scene-to-scene decisions, but also a lot of it has to do with dialogue choices and, of course, the performances of the actors. As I mentioned in the last video, I really like Jake Gyllenhaal. I also really like Riz Ahmed. I haven't seen Rene Russo in that many things. She always seems to be quite good as well. She's good here. They all portray, they all deliver their dialogue really well, portray nuanced characters, show a lot of really strong but subtle emotion in the appropriate times. I mean, I'm just sort of listing off good acting. They're good actors. They do a good job. They deliver the stuff well, and it's written well. So they're working with good stuff. Comparatively speaking, like Velvet Buzzsaw, there's a lot of bizarre kind of nonsense dialogue in Velvet Buzzsaw that's sort of, for want of a better phrase, wanky. And this has none of that. It's a very different feeling. It is fascinating that I just wonder why this one hits so much better, because it's same writer, same director. Whether it was just like Velvet Buzzsaw needed another rewrite or something like that, if it just sort of didn't land right for me or for other people. But comparatively speaking, this film, Nightcrawler, is really great. It also avoids one thing that I was really worried about going into this, and a lot of the reason I didn't watch it for a long time, which was I was concerned about the content. That is not really a concern. A lot of the some settling in the other side of the room. A lot of the sort of graphic content that you would think would be inherent to this story, the story they're telling, is pretty deftly avoided. The camera work is done very well to avoid most of the really graphic stuff, except for when it's really sort of, I think, necessary to set the tone. And even when they do it, it's well executed. It's not, needlessly grotesque or anything like that. I think it's really well executed. So I credit them on that as well. I think there are too many dramas and thrillers, including from some of my favorite directors, that seem to sort of like to take a little like bird bath in their puddles of blood and things like that, in a way that's a little bit too 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 excited to be there, and this does a really good job of not doing that. So I really appreciate that. As far as the story itself, like it tells a really unique story, about a unique place, a unique time, unique characters, a very sort of specific niche that I have never heard anything about. That's always compelling to me just by virtue of being novel. But the fact that it is all of those things at the same time is also really interesting. It's not just that it is character archetypes I've already seen in something else before, but transplanted into this sort of unique niche of society. It's like a whole microcosm unto itself. And so that really serves the sort of larger narrative they're telling, about the kind of people and the kind of behaviors and the kind of mentality required to do what they're doing, or not necessarily required, but that may draw people to that sort of thing. It's also an interesting. It has. I don't want to say it has a message, because it at no point does it sort of like, it doesn't even really tee up. It just sort of gives you a whole lot of information and says, I don't know, draw your own conclusion. And even though it is very clear, if you're looking at all, if you're analyzing it at all, it's like, oh yes, the message is pretty deliberate here. It at no point, forces it upon you. So I also really appreciate them not, beating you over the head with some sort of message or social condemnation or however else you want to frame it, which is often, a problem with films that have grand ideas of how important their message is. So credit for not doing that, and yet leaving it open to be viewed. Yeah. Overall, I was really pretty impressed with this. It's not. I don't know that it got a lot of praise. And I believe it got a nomination for the screenplay at the Academy Awards. I don't know if it is that good, but it is very good. It certainly still has a few issues. It's not as prettily shot in some areas. It's could have used another take here and there and a little tightening up on some of the editing, or loosening up in some cases. But I really like the story it tells, the way it delivers it, the people who were cast to do it, and overall it's a unique experience that I really appreciated. Something a little different. Yeah. This is an extra short one just because I'm kind of happy with it. It's a good film. If you haven't seen it, check it out. I recommend it. Anyway, I've been the Social Solipsist. Thank you guys for watching another episode. And I will see you guys next time.